Yeah, you can see the dam up ahead.
And this was built by the Corps of Engineers?
Yeah. There have been several dams in this stretch of the river. I don't know how many, I would say at least half a dozen over the years. And they've gotten bigger and stronger every time. But they've also had problems with them.
Yeah, I remember you saying last night about the ditch.
Yep. Yeah, you guys want to come a little bit closer? This is kind of a nice patch of shade on a hot day. And can you hear me back there? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, let me say a couple things. Every April, the ditch is cleaned. It's an annual ritual. For people that own as many as 3 acres of agricultural land, and there's a potential total of, I believe, 115 acres that people could own, they are obligated to put in 1 peon, 1 worker, for every 3 acres. So if you own 9 acres, you'd be obligated to put in 3 workers. And the mayordomo will come up to the dam in March, maybe as long as 3 weeks before ditch day. And he will close off the irrigation ditch where it enters at the dam, you see, to flow here. What's going on, you see, is the Pecos is flowing downstream and the irrigation ditch is flowing downstream, but the irrigation ditch is flowing downstream more gradually. And therefore, you know, it rises to be about 15 feet above the village by the time it gets down to the village. It's just a more gradual slope. So what happens is that the mayordomo comes up, shuts off the ditch early March, and then declares ditch day, which in yesteryear used to be ditch weekend, because they had only enough peones to do half the ditch on one day, a Saturday, and half on a Sunday. Now they can get the whole ditch dug in one day. Indeed, when I brought students out with large groups of students, we furnished as many as 35, 40 of the peones. And they were delighted because we got the ditch done by noon. And their big celebration, people began to eat and drink beer, you know, because they didn't have to get back in the ditch in the afternoon. Now this last ditch day, which was something like April, I forget, 12th, something like that. I was in Boston for the AAG, the meetings, so I didn't come. I try and come whenever I can. But this last ditch day, it took them till about 3:30 in the afternoon because they had only 40 peones. I've seen it where they've had as many as 80, 85. Okay, so what happens is that on ditch day, people gather down there at the Vado, where we stood a few minutes ago, and all the peones are together, theoretically. The mayordomo leads them up to the dam, and the mayordomo has already designated a work area along the ditch. And a work area is called a tarea. And if you look up the word tarea, T-A-R-E-A, tarea, if you look it up in a dictionary, Spanish dictionary, it means a task. So each peon is given a task. And the task is that the mayordomo has gone down the ditch a couple days maybe before ditch day, and he's taken his shovel, and down there at the base of the ditch, where the ditch is now dry, you know, he's made a divot, and then he's paced off like 10 paces, you know, maybe close to 30 feet, maybe only 7 paces, and then he'll put another divot. And that means that's your tarea. So all these people come walking up to the ditch, walking up to the dam, and where the tareas begin up there, there's a culvert up there, so it's not right at the dam, it's a little bit this way. Where the tareas begin, a peon gets down, gets out his shovel, and begins to square up the ditch. That's the purpose, because a lot of silt has formed here over the year. And to make it flow better, they want it flat. So you get in there with your shovel. I've done this. Doug's done it. It's work. You get in there, you know, you're an angle, you ain't piece of cake, man, you know. You start digging, and you realize that those Spanish guys next to you knew what to do better than you, because they pace themselves. And they can go all day, and the angles often wear out. But anyway, you get in there with your shovel, and you square it up, and you take the dirt, and you throw it up, and this thing, this crown of the ditch, meanwhile, every year gets built a little bit higher. And once you've finished with your tarea, then you come up here and you try and avoid, you know, the shovels full of dirt that are coming up and hitting your pant legs, and you go down to the next vacant tarea. And sometimes, you know, 5 or 6 people in a row will finish at the same time, and they'll all get up. Theoretically, the mayordomo comes along and says, yep, okay, you're done, you know. Theoretically, that doesn't really happen. I've seen it seldom. You're supposed to, you know, they're supposed to verify that, hey, yeah, this is good. Then you move down and start the next tarea. And meanwhile, there'll be a couple other villagers that have been designated as the brushers, and they'll have big loppers, and they'll come along and they'll, you know, try and clean up the brush that's growing along the crown here. And occasionally there'll be some guys with sledgehammers, and there'll be a boulder that came rolling down into the ditch, and they're busting that thing out, you know, so that it won't obstruct the flow of water. This is the biggest single thing that happens all year long in the village of El Cerrito, Ditch Day. And the most important social organization in the village is the Ditch Association. Now, at one time, you could have said they're a Catholic church. These people were strongly Roman Catholic. All of them went to church every Sunday. And then there were other services during the middle of the week, like on Wednesday. And they were devout Catholics, and you could say that, I think you should say that the Catholic Church at one time was the most single important, you know, kind of social community organization. But now, you know, the church, there's so few villagers, the church is relatively unimportant compared to how it was back in 1940. So, you know, they want to keep the ditch clean because this water is their lifeline. We are standing in a semi-arid area. El Cerrito gets between like 12 and 14 inches of rain, of precipitation, I should say, average annual. About 3 of those inches come in snow during the winter. They get about 30 inches in winter. 10 inches of snow is 1 inch of rain, rule of thumb. So, you know, 3 inches come in the form of snow, precipitation, snow, and then the rest is rain. And the rainiest times of the year, the rainiest 2 months of the year are July and August. We're not to the rainy season yet. But during July and August, you know, convectional thunderstorms will develop. The moisture from the Gulf of Mexico has kind of moved this far inland to eastern New Mexico, and having a thunder shower every day or every other day is rather common. And that means that the road going out of the village gets a little dicey, because when it rains, that thing is mud, and there are problems, people getting stuck. We have been stuck in our van, our OU people coming out on field trips. Okay, so we're going to walk up to the dam. There's actually the former dam, the dam that was here when I first came up, a bit upstream from this more modern dam. It's a little hard to talk up there because the water noise increases as we go toward the dam, but we'll stand up there and look at the place where the water comes in. You know, the water comes access to the irrigation ditch and so on.